Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richeimer. Guys, we have so many questions. Awesome questions. Thank you for sending them in. Some of them are like, woohoo, hello. So I didn't hear all of them, but they were saying, oh my goodness, Leah, wait till you see what we got for you today. Anyhow, okay, fine. So we're going to start with the questions. If you have more questions, send them in. Info@ladiestalkshow.com, LADIES talkshow.com, and send your question in and we'll try and get them answered. Okay, let's go, ladies. What do we got for me today? Gila.
Okay, so Batya's asking, usually my husband tries hard to meet my needs. The problem is he often gets unwell due to digestive issues. During these times, he is completely shut off and unable to give to me. It happens regularly, and even though he apologizes, I feel so isolated. It might not be his fault, but I'm depleted.
Oy, oy, oy. Digestive issues. So the first question, I'm just going to get logistically, like handle the logistics. Like, what have you done about that? Like, by the way, BT dubs, that's your responsibility. Like, yes, he should take accountability. Guys don't take care of themselves. In case anybody hasn't noted, like, if you didn't get the memo, like they will never go to a doctor. I mean, maybe there's 1 in 100 that will, but this is a wife. You want him to live long, healthy, happy life. You got to be on it. So the first question I have for you is, what have you done about these digestive issues? Have you tried, okay, let's cut out onions. Okay, let's cut out burritos. Okay, let's cut, whatever. When he has the digestive issues, figure out what it is. If it's not his diet, it could be something else. He could have the small intestinal growth. So there's a lot you can do to take care of his digestive issues, whether that's figuring out the diet things and what correlates and keeping a diary of, whatever, of what he ate and what his symptoms were. He could be allergic to something. He'd be allergic to gluten. Who knows what it could be? So that's one thing. Second thing, take him to a doctor. Third thing, read articles and books and whatever on how to manage somebody. So that's the first thing. I would actually do that simultaneously. That other thing, other input I'm going to give you, but be on it. Like, make it your whole goal in life to settle the guy's stomach, or to fix whatever is broken there, to help him and support him through it. Now, he may be resistant to your help, and you say, it's my job, just try and talk him into letting you help him in this, which guys are very reluctant to let their wives manage their health care, so you probably have to talk him into it. But if you do it in a caring way, if you say, okay, what did you eat? If you say, oh, I'm starting this new thing. I really feel bad. You always have these digestive issues. First of all, he'll love you for caring, or he'll be annoyed, but you got to do what you got to do. But, say, I really want to see if I can fix it because I feel responsible. Maybe I'm buying you the wrong foods. Maybe we're eating the wrong foods. And if it turns out to be his favorite thing, find another favorite thing. If he's allergic to, onion soup, and that's his favorite soup, so try mushroom soup, try barley soup, try vegetable, minestrone, try every different kind. Try and make, in other words, if this was your number one job in life, I got it. You got a whole other part of your life that you got to take care of. But if you throw in all of your energy and effort to make that happen, to take care of him in this way, it'll mean the world to him, and you will end up having a better, healthier husband. So that's the first thing. Now, let's go into the emotional aspects of it, which is the fact of him shutting you out and, not feeling well. I don't know if most people, when they are not feeling well, can't have the energy to manage how they treat others very well. It's kind of like you go into your shell, you become a turtle, you go, whatever is it like, you're out like this and you go into your shell. I'm trying to do the logistics here. You just want to be a turtle. You just want to be left alone. You don't want any demands made of you. And that's really understandable. And that's very, very hard for those who live with them. So if it's this chronic issue, give and take, and he apologizes for it, which is nice, after he comes out of it and his head comes back out of, and he's not a turtle anymore and his digestion is feeling better. So then he's treating you good, treating you well, I think. He's treating you well because he is feeling better, and he has the capability to do that. And the reason you are having a hard time saying, okay, I forgive you, is because it's coming around the corner anytime soon. So you will be coming around. So the emotional, you just have to understand that dealing somebody with a chronic illness is a whole other set of emotional strength that a woman needs to have. And you have to know something. I don't know why Hashem gave you this particular challenge, but we are never given a challenge that we can't rise up to. So it means for you getting a little bit less of your needs met, which is sad. Okay. And it means being much more compassionate to him. And if you just think of maybe in a past Gilgul or in your childhood, whatever it is, your tikkun, your raising up, your spirit on a spiritual level, you need this to perfect your soul. You need it. I know that's hard to hear. And the reason I'm talking so straight is because I don't have a one-on-one. Otherwise, I'd couch it and be all mamby-pamby and sweet and whatever. But I just have to tell you like it is, so you at least have some strength in knowing what your job is. So it is a very spiritually challenging aspect to not get your needs met and serve somebody else. But maybe it's a tikkun from a past life when you didn't take care of somebody else. Who knows? I don't know. It's above my pay grade. But what I'm saying, if you think of it that way, I think it'll take some of the anger towards your husband out and realize this is really a gift from God. It doesn't feel like it. So maybe I shouldn't even said that to you. It's a little mean, but it's a package, a one-way ticket to become your best self. So I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do to mechazik yourself, to make yourself stronger through it. But if you see it, if you look at the overall umbrella picture, rather than I'm not getting my needs met, which I hear, okay, I feel for you. I'm sorry for you. We all love you. We're rooting for you. Okay. I feel it. Feel you, what you're feeling. Okay. But I'm going to give you 3 things that will help you once you understand the umbrella of where you're holding. So the first 3 things is make sure to get taken care of by others. So if your husband, you want to tell him what happened today and you can't believe it, and he's just lying on the couch, like you're like, hello. Get yourself some friends, get yourself a sister. There is a cost to that. There's a benefit, which is you can tell her all about the crazy day you had, which is nicer with your husband. But when you telling her about the crazy day you had means you have to put in the time and the effort to listen to her kvetching. Okay, it's a kvetch trade-off. You know what I'm saying? And so it will take an effort on your part. But so the first thing is to get yourself more support in the ways that you think that your husband isn't meeting at the moment. That's not a general, by the way, those of you who are not dealing with this problem, for everybody else, you really should work on getting your needs met from your husband. I'm using this as in case he can't improve the situation, in case the wife can't improve his diet or his digestive issues, and she's dealing with this for a long time, she needs to get supported elsewhere. The second thing you need to do is you need to not blame your husband. I get it. It's not easy. That's not an easy hurdle that I'm putting before you. But if you can realize this is from God and not from your husband, it will take the sting out of it. And again, that's not something you can like right now and say, okay, I get that. I know that's hard, but I get it. It means every single day, every single time he's shutting you out or he's not feeling well or whatever, you need to remind yourself, I'm not taking it out on him. I'm sure he also would prefer not to have digestive issues. So that's the second thing. And the third thing, which is probably the most difficult mentally to wrap your head around, is to really validate his illness. Because what happens in especially digestive issues, like if somebody, God forbid, had a real disease or a real, something, they had a car accident and their neck, was hurt for the next 2 years, that's okay. That's and you could have more sympathy for that. You could derive more, compassion for somebody with a situation like that. But somebody with digestive issues, it sometimes just feel like they're just making it up because they don't want to help do the dishes. That's a hard one. It's a really, really a hard one. Admitting that to yourself and owning it yourself. And also, look, do the other things I told you to do for 2 or 3 months, but eventually it might be possible for you to say, part of my resentment or my hurt about it is I feel like you some people have digestive issues their whole life and they never say a thing. It doesn't affect them at all. They don't affect other people. They stay as close to other people. They still do everything they're supposed to do. They're supposed to meet everybody's needs. And other people have a little, that's horrible digestive issues. Then there are people with tiny little digestive issues like, oh, I just don't feeling whatever. And they blow it all out of proportion and try and make the most of, I can't do this because I can't, and just check out of their responsibilities. So it makes it very, very hard for a wife dealing with a husband with these issues. And for that one, you have to, in your own mind, understand if I had these digestive issues that he had, probably, let's be honest, probably I would play it up more than it is, that's just human nature. And it gets worse. You have less control over how it affects you when you're feeling bad. So if you're feeling a little bad, it gets blown out of the proportion in your own mind. So there's a whole cycle of chronic illness that you can do a lot of research on and try and help. He may not be open to hear what you have to say about it, or open to thinking that it's psychological or that there's anything he can do about it. He just feels a victim to it. So you may not be the one to shift that for him, but you yourself knowing it hopefully gives you the strength to deal with the situation. Okay, I know I threw a lot of stuff at you. Maybe go back and listen from the beginning and listen to it again so that you can take notes and really take this to heart, because I get it, but as we always say, yes, you are the victim to your husband's poor behavior, and that's very, very challenging. But there's always something a wife can do to make the situation better. And I hope I've given you some tools that, at least some of them will work for you and make it easier day-to-day life. Good question. Thank you for writing in. And Hashem should bench you that you should have hatzlacha in this. Okay.
Oh, man. Wow, Leah, that was such a good answer, because a lot of husbands have a lot of different things, not just digestive. It could also even be like an emotional thing, how to deal with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Spot on. Okay.
Dassie's asking, my husband is always doing something else when he speaks to someone, me, his mother, our kids. He usually is on the phone, although he can be reading or just looking, although he could be just reading or just looking around. I never feel truly cherished. I've gently expressed this to him and requested 1 hour a day, but nothing so far has worked.
So the question is his attention span or his screen time?
Distractibility.
Yeah, I'm going to say something that sounds so obvious, ADHD situation, like whatever. And there's actually articles and books, being married to an ADHD spouse. Read those articles and books. They'll know. I'm not an expert in that area, so you definitely have to read them. And I also know that I do have one case. Just trying to remember who it was and when it was. I don't remember all the details, so forgive me if I'm making some of this up. But there was somebody who got their husband a Rubik's Cube, and that solved the problem. Did I read that somewhere? But basically, when they're doing something, I myself, I'm a fiddler, right? I have these cute little pink things that these magnets, and and I just sit there and play with them, but it makes too much noise in the microphone. But I'm a fiddler, so some people think better when their hands are busy. So worth a try. Silly putty, slinky, something, there's a lot. It's very popular now, the fidget toys. So you can get them something like that. Maybe that helps. Another thing might help is that when you need to talk to him about something serious, that you go for a walk, because if he's sitting there like this and he has to sit still and stare at you and whatever and pay attention, it just, whereas if you're walking, you're both going in the same direction. He's looking at a million things. He's making sure he doesn't trip. He's like, oh, look at that pretty car over there. Look at the bushes. Look at the trees, whatever. If you're walking like that, he has a lot to look at, but you're still connected. And they say that, by the way, that's a little, I took that as a tip of some chinuch teacher who taught, who's teaching kids. And they said that's great for teenagers. Like a teenager has a hard time sitting still and listening. But if you go for a walk with your teenager, or a drive also can be the same thing. But then you often are too distracted with traffic, unless you take a nice quiet drive somewhere. Good luck with that. But anyway, the point is that there are little tricks like that you can look into to arm yourself with a lot of tools about it. Just expecting him to sit still and to whatever, I think that's in the too hard basket, meaning that's too hard for him to accomplish. So I would really, really work on your end of it, all these other tools that you can use. And there's a lot of them. If you try and look into different articles and different strategies, you'll find a ton of stuff on this. Again, probably under the ADHD, how to deal with it, how to be married to somebody who's distracted and distractible. Okay, very good. Good question. Good luck with it. If you don't mind, give me an email back and letting me know how that went. Okay, very good. What you got?
Great. Ellie's asking, I had a couple over for Shabbos, and her husband was so gentle and kind to his wife. I couldn't help but compare my husband. He's nothing like that with me. What do I do with these feelings?
Dangerous territory. Very, very dangerous. I get a lot of women who ask me questions about, well, I was there, and this jealousy thing. So there's a thing we're commanded, do not be covet your husband's, your the neighbor, da, da, da. And what's mind-boggling is how can you like walk into a house and you see this big palatial thing with marble this and gold that and whatever, all dripping, oozing with money, right? And you get jealous. Like, how can God mandate us to not be jealous? Like, I also would prefer not to be jealous. You know what I'm saying? Like, and what the answer is, and ask your LOR, your local Orthodox Rav, for a better answer than I'm going to give you right now, is that we are meant to, we can feel those things, but we're not meant to act on them. And that, we should be training ourselves to be happy for what other people have. That is real. It's a really big test sometimes, but you really, if you could gain mastery over not being jealous. Now, it's great to be jealous of somebody's spiritual accomplishments, but the material accomplishments, it's God gives them what they need, and that God gave you what you need. So in this situation with the wife, there's two aspects. One is to realize that you're mandated not to be jealous. That's the exact instance when you need to say, oh, she has what she needs, I have what I need, what I need to fulfill my mission in this world. So that's the first thing you're doing. And then the second thing you're doing is recognizing that nothing is as it seems. And I know this probably more as much as anybody, because I'm dealing with people and they have, what looks like from the outside world, this great life. And then they're confiding in me and their issues and whatever. And I'm like, oh, everybody's got their peckle, everyone's got their peckle. So the peckle is, how do you translate peckle? Bag of stuff. Package. Everyone's got their package of baggage and challenges. Everybody's got theirs. So you're seeing how lovely and sweet he is in public on a Shabbos table. That's 0.01% of who he is, or 0.01% of their relationship. So he could be sweet and nice to them, her, and then they go home and he's like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't in public he's one way, and who knows? I mean, God forbid, I hope that's not the case for her, but that totally could be the case. So you're sitting there ruining your own marriage by expecting your husband to be somebody who he's not. And she doesn't even have what you think she has. So it's a complete waste of time, which I'm sure you know yourself. It's just all these emotions get riled up and picked up and flaring. Any unhappiness you have in your relationship gets exacerbated by this situation. And the most important thing you need to understand is it always looks different on the outside. And I would do whatever you possibly can to avoid being around this couple. I'm going to say that again. This is harsh, but it's the emes. If you cannot manage, now maybe you can manage your own mind and I've told you enough and you're like, okay, I'm off it. It's right. Every time I'm with them, I'm going to use that methodology and just say, well, it's always different behind closed doors. So what do I know? And I'm over it. That's very hard. If you can do that, gesundheit, good luck. That's great. If you cannot do that, 80% chance you cannot do that, you need to separate yourself as much as possible and not be the thing, you're not supposed to put a stumbling block in front of a blind man. If it's like, oh, I don't walk by the river because I don't want to see the people who are not dressed appropriately, right? Oh, well, I'm going to walk by the river and not look. No, that's not the right answer. We know from Chazal that we are meant to go to protect ourselves at every turn, at every which way we can, and not tempt ourselves with going down a dark channel with no cheese. Okay, so for this, unless maybe it's a relative that you're talking about, and you are going to see them, then you need to bolster yourself, and you need to, figure out ways to deal with it that are even stronger than the things I've suggested. For instance, if it's a relative, let's say, and he's always being nice to her, or whatever, you need to sit down and write down, let's say, 5 things on an index card of fabulous character traits of your husband that you are totally in love with. So then when you see him acting that way, you say, I've got these 5. She's got that. I've got these 5. Something. You need to do some serious work. But the ultimate thing, and this is, I think, if you ask a local Orthodox Rav, which I think I recommend, I think you should do, I think they would say stay away, as far away from the couple as possible. It's only going to make problems in your shalom bayis, and you're mechuyev, you're obligated not to put yourself in that situation. Okay, very good. Wow, these are great questions, ladies. Very, very impressive. Wow.
Okay, great. So Mary's asking, my husband tends to spend money without much thought, whilst I try to be so careful. It doesn't seem fair. Do I need to change, or just he?
Good question. Ask him. Ask him. Sit down and say, I'm super careful with money. Look, where's a tissue? Here's a tissue. If you grew up poor, that, the tissue doesn't tear in half this way. It tears in half this way. That way you can use a half at a time. You don't waste a tissue. Okay. So, there are some people who, no matter how well-to-do they become, they still remember what it was as a kid to not have enough tissues. So if you're one of those people who grew up very conservative, very careful, and very whatever, and you're married to somebody who's not, and by the way, strangely enough, that is often the case. Like, I mean, most couples, if you sit them down, you would say they have different spending habits. And I had one couple, I think this was 3-4 years ago. I don't know. I think it's actually on the show, where somebody asked about, the husband, was very, all the times was careful, wanted her to be careful with the money, but then he would go, he like bought a drum set or some stupid thing that he was never going to use. So his drum set or whatever was $800, and he was arguing with her about spending $22 on a pair of something, I don't remember, on curtains or whatever it was. So it can cause a lot of tension in the marriage, and there has to be an understanding about it. So given that all of your money is his money, this is Chazal, this is like, if you don't know this, go back and watch some of our ladies talk shows from prior where we talk about this. Some of it feels very unfair and mean or whatever, but we know, when we follow what the Torah says about how finances work in a marriage, and we follow it, more blessing, more money, more everything comes into our home. So even though it's hard to hear in a modern sensibilities and, with the feminist movement and so forth, I'm not anti-feminist. I totally feel that there were many good things that came out of it, particularly equal pay for equal work, which we haven't gotten to yet, by the way. But anyway, but this part about the money really is the husband's, means that you need to talk to him about how he can spend. You can say, listen, I'm very careful with my money. I very watch it, and I try and get things on sale, and I go to a lot of effort to do that. And I see it's a little different how I spend money than how you spend money. Do you want me to keep it the way it is? Or do you, could I can I be a little bit more carefree? Tell me what you want. And by the way, please don't take this the wrong way, but I just need to say that it feels a little bit, I don't know if the word's unfair, but it feels like, I'm so careful. And then when you're extravagant, it makes me feel like like it's kind of like if you had two kids and one got a big ice cream cone and one got a little ice cream cone, the one who keeps getting the little ice cream cone is going to start to feel like, oh, it's not fair, or nobody loves me. It's not going to be the best feeling. So whatever solution we come up with, if we could please try to come up with a solution that doesn't make me feel like I'm not worthy or I'm not deserving, or that I'm less than in the marriage, because that would hurt my feelings. So I'm not sure how we can resolve this, as you're saying this, Tim. You're being very speaking from your heart. I'm not sure how we can resolve this, but I'm really hoping that we can figure out a solution. And maybe it is that rather than every decision I make, I have to have a whole calculation in my head of what would you do, what would I do, but maybe it just give me an extra X amount of dollars, an extra $200 in my budget a month, or $500, whatever it is, so that I'll manage it myself better, something like that. So basically, what I'm suggesting to you is to have a conversation to come up with a plan, and that has to include your husband. So it's a very good question. One thing I want to caution you about: don't be try and be as soft and sweet and gentle in the conversation as possible, because money issues, I think I read somewhere that that's the biggest cause of problems in marriage or whatever. And it's probably not as much the money issue as how it's handled when there's a confrontation or a communication. So, make a good plan on how you're going to say it and what you're going to say. Maybe even make a journal notes and, say, make sure not to tell him how mad you still are that he bought that extravagant car 4 years ago. Try not to beat him up about his spending habits. So put a lot of thought into how you're going to handle it. And I wish you a lot of hatzlacha with it. Okay, so ladies, your homework for this week is one time pick something that's been niggling at you and bothering you and upsetting you for years, and figure out how to communicate it to your husband in a soft, sweet manner. That's going to be your best strategy for success. Okay, great questions. Keep them coming. Info@Ladies Talk Show. We'll see you. This is Leah Richeimer. We'll see you next time.